We made the point a lot on this show because it's true that the entire purpose of the Democratic Party's immigration policy is to change the population of the United States in a way that guarantees they win every election going forward. This is effectively electorate packing. It's an assault on democracy. It devalues your vote. It's happening right in front of us, and we've said so out loud. And every time we do say it out loud, the usual liars and dummies who imagine themselves to be the gatekeepers of our national conversation throw a fit. They become apoplectic. They call us the usual names. Boo-hoo. And then after a few days, and this is the most interesting part, they inevitably go back to bragging in public about how they're using immigration policy to change the population of the United States in a way that guarantees they win every election going forward. It's unbelievable. And then expect us not to notice. Jennifer Rubin is a columnist at the Washington Post. Rubin is probably the dumbest person ever to have a newspaper column. She's also highly aggressive. So she does this a lot because she's got no self-awareness. And she did just the other day in print, hoping no one would notice, but we did. Here's what she wrote, quote, Democratic hopes that demography would deliver Texas have not been wrong, but perhaps just premature. The 2020 congressional races suggested that while the fight for Hispanic votes remains competitive, the sprawling suburbs around major Texas cities are increasingly moderate. Oh. In other words, crows Jen Rubin, the Great Replacement Plan is working. It's helping the Democratic Party. That's the whole point. Well, thanks for telling us that, Jen Rubin. And let us know if it's racist to read your column out loud. So Hunter Biden, in contrast to a lot of other people in this country, is in a really good place right now. He's become a painter, finger painting apparently, and he's been selling his works for hundreds of thousands of dollars to unnamed foreign buyers because that's totally legitimate. People have criticized him for this. What does he think? He doesn't care what you think.
If I was going to choose something, to become an artist and subject yourself to the normal and criticism of sharing your art to a wider audience than your friends and family is, at least in my book, it's a pretty courageous thing to do.
You seem to have good spirits about, this sort of kind of crazed narrative around your painting. I mean, how do you, what's your response to the people who are, coming after like the prices of the work or just, the collectors? I mean, what's been your response to that?
Other than them?
Honestly, it's kind of hard to blame Hunter Biden for this. I mean, if someone's going to pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars for your art, a hobby you'd just taken up like 20 minutes ago, would you take the money? Of course you would. You would do what you could get away with. 99% of people would. It's everyone else who's implicated in this. The people who are interviewing Hunter Biden and calling any criticism of his art career hyperventilating, it's all political, is the people buying this crap purely because he's the president's son. And it's the entire media establishment pretending it's not happening. Those are the villains in this story. Hunter Biden is just a man on the make getting what he can, and he's getting a lot. He just hosted an art show in Hollywood. It featured hundreds of rich people from around California, including the mayor of the rapidly disintegrating city of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti. He was there. Now, why might that be? Because he's a huge art fan? Because Hunter Biden, after 50 years of running around smoking crack or doing whatever he was doing, became a great artist? Right. No. Joe Biden has just nominated Garcetti to be the American ambassador to India. Garcetti, you should know, appears in Hunter Biden's laptop on a list of key contacts to grease the wheels for Hunter Biden's Chinese business partners. It's all so repulsive. It's actually happening now. It's so third world. Miranda Devine has chronicled it really like nobody else. She works at the New York Post, and we're grateful to have her with us tonight. Miranda, have you purchased one of these paintings?
No, I haven't. They're really out of my price range. We're talking about, up to $500,000, and they don't really strike me as being so good that I want them on my walls. Maybe as a novelty item. I think maybe a lot of people would be buying it because Hunter Biden has become now so notorious through his laptop, one of 3 that he's mislaid around the place. And, we can laugh at him, and as you say, like, he doesn't care. He's untouchable now. His father is the president. And whatever grift he's up to, it's really Joe Biden's grift. It's the president's grift, and now it's the White House grift. And so it's everyone's problem, particularly the Democrats. And I think anyone who goes to these Hunter Biden art shows, there's another one happening in New York in the fall later on, if they go, they are legitimizing what is really just a racket.
Well, the entire art world is a tax dodge, and I think that's well known to rich people. I'm not sure a lot of people understand that, but a lot of it's just about tax avoidance, of course. But what about all the so-called art critics and newspaper reporters who, under any other circumstances, would be covering this with at least some amusement, and they're totally ignoring it?
Yeah, well, it's like everything that plays badly for Joe Biden. You saw it before the election when we published our stories on the laptop. They were suppressed, and you've seen it ever since. Anything that's negative about Joe Biden is covered up and excused and explained away, and any bad optics are quickly mopped up. That's, I guess, what the White House is good at. And we know that Hunter Biden is under investigation for money laundering, among other problems. And we know that the art world is notorious for being a venue for money laundering. So it really takes a lot of chutzpah for him to do this. But that's the byword, I think, of the Biden administration is shamelessness. It's shameless that the president isn't even pretending to distance himself from what's going on. He keeps on hiding behind this mirage of being just a kindly, fatherly family man when he's been in on this influence peddling enrichment program from the start.
None of these people ever do anything useful. Like, you're getting off drugs, good for you. Why not learn HVAC repair, or how to fix a diesel engine, or how to tape drywall? You know, it's always some BS fake career. Oh, I'm a lobbyist. You know what I mean? I'm a consultant. I'm an artist. Like, none of it's real. They can't do anything. These are useless people. Has that occurred?
Well, I mean, it's not really Hunter's fault. He was almost brought up to be the bagman.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I agree. I've never blamed him. I feel sorry for him. The people around him are awful. Miranda Devine, thank you for your reporting on this.